Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, Capital One Bank, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, AmTrust Title, Ariel Property Advisors. Additional funding has been provided by AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization, Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, TerraCRG, the Meringoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends.
You know, there's the business of commercial brokerage. You know, it looks like it's a lot of money, you could have a lot of fun, but there's a lot of challenges. There are opportunities, but the challenges are there and difficulty. So today I've assembled this group of commercial brokerage companies to provide their insight on the challenges and opportunities of running a commercial brokerage. My guest today includes Shimon Shkury, who is the co-founder and CEO of Ariel Property Advisors. Tim King, who is the co-founder and managing member at CPEX Realty Services. Ofer Cohen, who is the founder and CEO of TerraCRG. And last but not least, Yoni Goodman, who is the president of Meridian Investment Sales. So each one of you, at a different time in your life, went into business in the commercial brokerage. The three of you worked together at a firm called Massey Knakkel. You were at Goldman Sachs, so it's a different world over here. 7 years ago, how did you decide that you were going to go out on your own?
So I always had the passion of building something and being a part of a company, and that was great when I started at Massey Knakkel. First few years were to build a division, and when that ended, when the company matured, I looked around, looked at my team, and my team said, "Hey, we should do this ourselves because we love building stuff."
Yeah, but here's this guy. 7 years ago, you're 40 years of age, okay? You're married, you have a wife and a couple of kids. It's a difficult time. How do you have the nerve or the chutzpah or to go into this?
It's a great question, and it requires a lot of internal work and a lot of capital to do that. And again, having the right people around you and the right partners to go in with you, which is what happened to us. And you have to have a plan on how you differentiate yourself and get clients right away.
Now, Timmy and I are closer in age, while the three of you are younger of age. Timmy was 10 years ago. How did you decide to go into the business?
To Shimon's point about having good people, I was blessed to have Brian Leary as a partner, and he and I had worked together also at Massey. And in our time there, we had a lot of fun, saw a lot of different opportunities, but felt that, at least for myself, felt that I had spent an awful lot of my life doing something to build for other folks. It was a chance to build for myself, to build something that was unique. And it was also, if not now, when?
I think that's an important comment. We were talking in the green room before, and I said to you, there are certain times in your life when you have the opportunity. When the kids are a certain age or your obligations are on a certain level, there are different times. I mean, you and basically, Timmy left at the same time.
I think each person and each company has its own story. But, Shimon mentioned earlier passion. I think there's a lot of conviction. I think that when I was at Massey Knuckle in Brooklyn, I saw an opportunity. I mean, I saw the Brooklyn market, and I had this deep, visceral sort of feeling and understanding that this Brooklyn market needs something else. And I just couldn't sleep at night until I woke up one morning and decided to do this. So I think it's, and then obviously, there's a lot of strategy behind how to do things. But at the end of the day, the decision to get up and do something like this, you have to see an opportunity. And I felt like the Brooklyn market was at that point so early, and my feeling was there's going to be that kind of a trajectory in the decade to follow that would...
But 10 years ago, we were in the worst recession.
I started in February of 2008, which was about 10 months before Lehman Brothers crashed. And so I didn't know that the worst financial crisis is ahead of me. And I was saying earlier, you have to be a little naive, right? I mean, you don't, and nobody knows, right? I mean, we could be 10 months before a big recession also. Nobody really knows. And so I had the conviction, I had the passion, I had the desire. I walked out and I just did it. And I remember, it's funny, because I remember Paul Massey calls me up a day after Lehman Brothers crashed, and he said, "Do you want to come back? It's going to be really rough out there." And he was being super nice as he is, as usual. Okay. And I said, "No, I already did this, and let me just get,
So here's the situation before I get to Yoni. Each one of you went out really with no business, okay? You started as an entrepreneur. Yoni started a company without business either, but you had a big brother. Let's talk about that and how Meridian Investment Sales came about. And
Sure. So like you just outlined, the experience has been somewhat different than launching completely on our own. We launched as part of Meridian Capital Group, and for me personally and for the platform, that was the motivating factor, that was the differentiating factor, and really the opportunity to take a business.
So I hate to make this comment. If you didn't have the big brother at that time, you would have stayed in the investment banking world at a place like Goodman?
There's no doubt, for me personally, that I came to the brokerage world to be a part of Meridian, to take a 25, 30-year-old company that had such deep roots nationally and especially on the East Coast and in this city, take that and leverage that along with the founders of the firm into creating a new product line to serve that very deep and loyal client base.
And how loyal was that client base? Okay, because it was an idea, saying, "Hey, I'm doing something else. I'm providing financing for the company," but the big question is, how am I going to accomplish that these people who say, "I love you"? It's like the restaurant guys. When I talk to somebody, I said, somebody says, "I'll go into the restaurant. I'll be your backer." Talk is cheap until the deal takes place.
Yeah, the way I would characterize it is as follows. In the brokerage business, on any side of the business, mortgages, sales, leasing, you're only as good as the service you provide. Honesty, integrity, service, and execution, getting the job done. So there's no question that while we have a deep and loyal client base, those clients were looking for us to perform. But what I would say is that when you have that type of reputation in the marketplace, while we have to perform day in and day out, there are a lot of people around the marketplace that are looking for an excuse, looking to give us the business, not looking to not give us the business. But that said, it's all about our people and our execution day in and day out.
So here we are in the biggest investment sales market in the world, over here. And we have basically local players competing against these national and international firms. How do you compete? I mean, you don't have as much money as they do. Many of them are publicly held companies. They have this capital. They could go out and sign up bonuses. How do you compete? How do you get people on a day-to-day basis to want to come to work with you? And what's going to motivate them?
So I think the first thing is to be nimble and to know your market. And so we have half of our company essentially is sales support and research. So we provide our brokers with a tremendous amount of information to go and know everything that needs to be known about a building or about a vacant lot. It starts with, if you take affordable housing, for example, everything related to regulatory agreements, we know how to dissect and understand. If you look at the zoning specifically in New York City, you need to understand everything from A to Z about that. So these are the things, the little things that are here, that are in New York City, specific to the local markets, to the sub-markets, each one of the sub-markets.
But wait a second, the national firms have that too, don't they, Timmy?
It's a misconception. It's almost like a guy thing where bigger is always better. I often make the analogy. Think about this. Ford sells more cars than Rolls-Royce, but which would you rather drive? So if you're looking for Rolls-Royce service, you can't always get it from the Ford dealer. So sure, there's no doubt the big firm can provide the whole panoply of services, but do they have the same level of hand-holding and service that someone like Ofer Shimon can offer, where we're on a different plane than those folks?
I argue that in terms of the research and understanding of a local product, at least for us, we definitely have better information.
Ofer is each one is trying to do a niche a little bit. You're pending a lot of your business via the financing side, which was the East Hill approach in certain markets, how they sold before. You're specializing in Brooklyn. You're more of a local broker who knows the market and understands the market. How do you compete? How do you keep people? How do you motivate them? How do you money is motivation. There are other reasons.
Sure. So we always say internally that the markets are efficient, the stock market is efficient, the employment markets are also very efficient. At every point in time, the people that work for different companies are looking at what the company provides to them. So as we were talking about earlier, we really look at three things that every employee wakes up in the morning and asks themselves. There's compensation, which is numbers. There's what edge does the firm provide me with? What tools in my toolkit are here because I'm at this firm? And then there's the culture. And we really think that all three of those things are of paramount importance, and there's not one of them that's more important than the others.
But part of the problem that you all have also, it's not a problem, is we all have different personalities, and you have different personalities who sell for you, who have to play nice in the sandbox, as my wife would say to me. Some people play better in the sandbox, and certain people don't play better.
And I feel like, large firms need to hire a lot faster and a lot more people. And small firms like ours that are focused only on Brooklyn are hiring very strategically and somewhat carefully and slowly. So we're 30 people now, maybe in 2-3 years we're going to be 45, 42, 45, right? That's not tremendous amount of people it's not tremendous amount of bodies to grow and an operation to scale. That in turn enables us as a company to really continue to focus on our market. 80% of our resources are going towards, growing our market, spending time with our clients, working on deals.
See, but the majority of your business and everyone until recently with your business was the investment sales, okay? You were more in the leasing than the three others.
We do office, retail, and sales.
Right, okay, but I'm saying the question is sometimes you want to be more than you are, okay? Which a situation on our friends at Easton, because they were just an investment sales company. Then they went into leasing. Then they went into financing. It's always nice. People always look at the grass of what somebody else is making.
If there's one question I'm being asked every day is why not Queens? Queens is an up-and-coming market. Queens is the next Brooklyn. Look at Long Island City. Look at Astoria. And the real answer for us is that our true and sole competitive advantage, both in terms of hiring and in terms of servicing our clients and servicing the market, is our focus on Brooklyn. And let's be honest, we have a 5-6% market share in Brooklyn right now. Easily, just by pure execution, we can get that to 10-12% market share in investment sales in Brooklyn. What would be the incremental cost of operation to now start a Queens operation and to grow, to hire there and to get the market share there?
I still remember when you guys were at Massey and they decided to go to New Jersey. It's a different world. It's a totally different market, right?
Well, I think the Brooklyn Queens markets do have a lot of similarities, though, and a lot of folks that The same owners that own on the Fulton Mall own on Jamaica Avenue. The same affordable guys that are running out of land to build in Brooklyn are now looking in Queens. So for us, it's an advantage to be in multiple markets. I like to think that we're can be a bigger fish in a small pond.
But you know, if we have to look at it this way, when you went out on your own, how many people in 7 years ago were you?
8.
So 8 to 150. When you and Brian went out 10 years ago, how many?
50.
It was just the two of you.
There might have been, there were 3 or 4 of us.
Okay, and today?
40,
How many?
40.
40. You, it was two of you.
Started 2, now 30.
And you, Yoni, when you started the business?
The investment sales business, we're up to 30. We started with 0. Started with
No, but you started with 0, but when you brought in an initial base, okay? How many?
The initial
The initial
5. Initial base was 5, and we've grown it to about 30. But I think to your question, the way we think about it is you're absolutely right. To get into other business lines just for the sake of being in other business lines, that has never, we've tried to be very disciplined about that, and that has never been interesting. But what really piques our interest is where there are synergies. So if we believe that we have an unbelievable financing arm and we can sell a building, work on that sale, then finance the buyer, you know, those full circle types of assignments, which everyone in the deal appreciates. The seller appreciates, the buyer appreciates. Maybe that seller now has a 1031. Maybe now the seller becomes a buyer. Those synergies are what gets what really piques our interest, because there are huge opportunities.
So when you're doing the sales pitch, to bring in a new employee, because that's a challenge and an opportunity. How do you sell on somebody? Why should they go to work for Shimon or Tim or Ofer? What's your edge, as they would say?
So I encourage everyone who meets with us to meet with several other firms as well, because I want them to feel comfortable that they're making the right choice. And we don't hire anybody until they've spent at least 3 or 4 full days in the office meeting with other folks. Because we have, I like to think, a very interesting ecosystem. You know, in our business at CPEX, every agent works on a specific product type. So if a new person's going to join the firm, we have to figure out first what team they're going to work on, what sort of product type are they going to specialize in. And then that team has to be receptive to the notion that, okay, bringing this person on is going to make my slice smaller, but by adding them, we're going to make the pie bigger. So that whole culture component is very, very critical. And I want whoever comes on board to know that they're burning the boat behind them. That this is, you're going to dive into the deep end of the pool. This is not a tryout.
So how do you do
expect
it?
the full commitment.
So in our system, we provide brokers with a specific sub-core or a geography, a territory, so to speak. And in addition, we provide them a tremendous amount of support.
If I'm a young broker and I say, I go to you and they say, I would like to come to you, but you're going to tell me I got to work in East New York because that's the market, or I have to go to the Bronx, I'm being limited.
No, you're not, because you can work in the Bronx and you can originate anywhere else and participate in the deal. So the same way you share fees in other companies, our system says, hey, you have an ownership of this specific area, but you can bring deals in other areas if you choose to and work with other people. But more importantly, we also have a support system within the office and a collaborative CRM everybody's open to, and allows each and every one of our brokers to work together versus against each other. So our goal is to really have the most collaborative environment, the most supportive environment that's out there for investment sales professionals.
And you?
And for capital services.
So we have a little bit of a similar approach and a little bit of a different approach. What's different about our approach is that we want people that want to be in the Brooklyn market, right? So the first question when they walk in the door is, why are you here? And if the answer is not, I moved to Brooklyn, my friends are in Brooklyn, I'm excited about this neighborhood, I love Brooklyn. If it's not the excitement about the Brooklyn market, you're probably not the right candidate. If I need to convince anyone that Brooklyn is the right market for them, they're not for me. And because I don't need to hire 17,000 people and I only need to hire 10 or 15, it works for me because it's a way to screen people that are truly passionate.
What product types are you selling right now in your company?
Multifamily.
No.
Investment sales,
investment sales,
retail leasing, and office leasing.
Okay, so you've expanded into retail leasing and office leasing.
Right.
You're selling what?
We do sales of every product type. We do office leasing, retail leasing, and advisory services.
Investment sales and capital services.
Right, but you're also gone into the capital services, and you've gone a little step further with regard to more on the Israeli financing.
Right, but
The bond financing.
the bond financing is something that I think is completely different. The specific thing that we're doing now is capital services in-house, and that's very synergetic to our investment sales business. We don't have a ton of people. We have a few people that are doing it, that are working synergetically with our investment sales brokers. I also think that in today's market, just to build on what Ofer said, specialization is key. And so that's why I think that if you divide the market to, be it product or territories or geographies or whatever you have that allows the broker to specialize and to focus, that's going to help them a lot to grow as a professional.
Yoni? Specialization.
Specialization is absolutely key. We also work in an asset class. Commercial real estate is a dynamic, living, breathing thing. And, nobody, on the financing side, for example, nobody wants to hear, yeah, you can get a loan. People in today's world want such specificity. Is it going to be 73% LTV or 79% LTV? What's my rate going to be? How does prepayment impact me? All of the, what banks are you going to take me to? How are those banks going to look at my property? The extreme specialization is everything in our business. Everyone knows you can get a loan, and everyone knows the approximate leverage and all that. But the ancillary terms, the specifics around it, investment sales as well. When an owner hires you, the owner wants to feel like you understand that neighborhood, that market, that buyer base, and that building better than he does. Otherwise, there's no value proposition. So specialization is definitely key.
I think also similar to what Timmy and to some extent Shimon is doing, we are, when it comes to straight out of college, hires, we hire them straight into a team, and going into an existing team and the pipeline that the team is handling already enables them to learn much faster, and not unlike the approach of here's a desk and a phone. And
Are you getting the same applicant, would you say, that a CBRE, a JLO?
Absolutely. One of the things we did is not put the sales associates on teams, but put them in a pool and allow them to rotate amongst different brokers. We do the same thing with analysts, and it's managed. And we find that A, it's a lot more effective and efficient for the company, but B, allows our junior people to grow a lot faster and get a lot of exposure to different people. In terms of applicants, we have very few positions to fill right now on the salary side, on the support side. We get hundreds of resumes, and part of it is...
But you bring up a good point. People who aren't in the business inside baseball don't realize that most of the people who work for you in the investment sales and leasing business are commissioned people.
Right.
Okay, you may have them as employees, but they commission employees. How do you go after somebody who literally, has educational debt, has obligations? How do you keep them motivated if you're not giving them a drawer, if you're not taking care of them financially?
Well, joining an existing team is a great solution for that, because they're joining an existing pipeline of revenue that this team is originating, and that through that...
But now you're also talking about that team is giving up some money because they're adding another person.
That's the point that I made earlier, and that's why it's so critical that that person has to feel that they're bringing something to the party, they're making the commitment, and the team has to feel like, okay, this is going to make our pie bigger, not just my slice smaller.
To answer your question, you will have to pay younger talent that comes in the door, and you want this way or another to be support staff, and that's part of the investment in the company. So there's no two ways about it.
How do you grow to the next stage? Okay, all of you have done well.
For Meridian, we think about different product lines and we think about geographies. From product line perspective, we continue to be thoughtful about where there are synergies. Investment sales was a big synergy. Our most recent venture, retail leasing, is a big synergy. And then I think from a geographic perspective, we are very thoughtful at all times about what geographies we have a strategic reason and edge to grow in. So both, which are different things. Where do we have a reason to grow, and where do we have an edge that will make us competitive in those markets?
And you?
So we have two. So our strategy is twofold. One, if if you come to our office in the conference room, there's a map with all our transactions, and you would see that unfortunately the majority of the transactions are sort of like central Brooklyn and up north. And there's still half of Brooklyn being sort of south of the park all the way to Coney Island Avenue that's very uncovered.
Yeah, we can't take the cemeteries.
So, so I think a big part of our strategy on the investment sales side is to really geographically expand to South Brooklyn and really cultivate the relationship and the business down there. On the leasing side, we see a tremendous opportunity in expanding our office leasing operation. It's currently only 3 people. We're actively seeking, senior and junior, salespeople to the office leasing division.
Tim?
So to Ofer's point, I think that there's a lot of growth in both office and retail leasing. And in terms of investment sales, even a 5 or 6, 7% market share is an awful big piece if you can get it. So from our point of view, it's just about growing smarter, burrowing deeper, and developing a skill set with the current crop we have so that as they move up, we can bring new folks in underneath them.
Shimmy?
For us is about geographies. So we have geographies that are uncovered right now, and we're hiring for them. But the most important thing is to look inside and who you have today and who can grow from what you have today.
With
make them
with
happy.
the exception of our friend Ofer, since we know that it's going to be difficult from leaving Brooklyn to even go to Queens, do you see the geographic going to New Jersey? Do you see that?
We have a small office in Red Bank in New Jersey, and there is some synergy. Again, back to the same owner in Brooklyn and Queens. You'd be amazed how many owners are in New York and are also in Jersey.
So we cover all 4 boroughs, 5 boroughs, I should say.
There is a 5th borough.
Yes, there is, and we cover it. And we have a lot of room to grow in the boroughs. At some point, when we're covered in New York City, and we will go over the river.
And you?
As you know, we're a national firm, so we actually have a large New Jersey office. Our New Jersey office does significant amount of business both in New Jersey and nationally.
You have a large New Jersey financing business.
Correct. So on the financing business, we're national, 7 offices
Right.
nationally. And on investment sales, we're absolutely going to grow outside of New York. And in fact, we think that growth in investment sales in certain markets will actually drive the financing in those markets.
Look, I do think that going into the money center cities are over there. But I think in summation, even though you're not a national firm, you don't have to be a national firm to be successful. I think as Yoni and all of you have said, it's a combination of the people. This is a people business. And the biggest challenge is to make sure that the people are satisfied and enjoying going to work and understanding what's going on over there. So I'd like to thank Shimon, Tim, Ofer, and Yoni, and I'll see you next week.